Welcome to Cast of Wonders, the fiction audio magazine for young adults featuring stories of the fantastic. I'm Graham Dunlop. Today, we bring you Bad Kitty by Jason Dextrator. He lives in Virginia Beach, Virginia. If, like me, you know little about the US, Virginia Beach is the largest city in the state of Virginia, and Virginia is on the west coast. He works as a courier to pay the bills and writes to keep the stories in his head from driving him crazy. Should he happen to have free time, he likes to spend it with friends or outdoors letting the wind blow through him or with a good story. Some of his other stories have appeared in the Hogglepot Online Fantasy Journal, the Absent Willow Review, and 5923 Quarterly. Check the show notes for details of these publications. Your narrators this week are the Girl Friday extraordinaire Marguerite Kenner, who is becoming a welcome regular round these here parts, and the Dark King of Podcasting, Alasdair Stewart. Alasdair is a writer and journalist from a small island in the middle of the Irish Sea, protected, the legends say, by a wizard who rolled wheels of fire down the central hill to dissuade invaders. Also, it rained a lot, and he's pretty sure that helped too. And now, we've a tale to tell.
Bad Kitty by Jason Dextrator.
We're going to get her this time.
Walt said while clenching his fist.
This time we're going to nail her.
I exhaled and slowly stood up. Easy, big fella. Our evidence is solid. Let's go in there and confront her. Let's try to make her crack. Try to get the confession.
She's not getting away with it this time, Jill.
I frowned. Sometimes having your husband as your partner was a blessing. This wasn't one of those times. And it didn't look like I could count on him to be rational. Let me handle the questions, Walt. You just back me up. He snorted and nodded. We walked to the interview room together, and he opened the door. I walked in first, with Walt right behind me. Our suspect was sitting on the floor, licking her crotch.
Cat. Disgusting.
Walt sneered. I gave him a look, and he decided to stand near the door while I conducted the interview. Hello, Miss Watson. I'm Jill, and I believe you're familiar with my partner, Walt. Why don't you have a seat and we'll begin? Please, call me Fluffy. All my friends do, she said with a thick southern drawl. It might charm most people, but Walt and I weren't buying it. All right, Fluffy, let's get down to brass tacks. You're in a lot of trouble. I pointed out the paperwork I brought in. These are some serious charges, and all the evidence points to you. Why, Jill, I'm sure this is all just some misunderstanding. Surely there's nothing serious in that little pile of papers, is there? I could almost feel Walt grinding his teeth behind me.
Keep it up, but you're not purring your way out of this one,
he said. Fluffy turned her head to the side and cut her eyes at him. I stepped in before things got out of hand. Let's go over the evidence, shall we? Then we'll see if you aren't singing a different tune, Miss Watson. Please, Jill. No need to be so formal. I insist you call me Fluffy, she said with an outstretched paw. I frowned and started reading. First, there's the toilet paper incident. 2 days ago, someone went into the guest bathroom and unrolled an entire roll of TP. Then the paper was shredded and scattered across the floor. Small bits of litter were found among the debris. You don't say. Well, that sounds just terrible. I do hope you catch the perpetrator. Walt jumped forward and she flinched.
We've already caught her. It was you. There's no one else who could have done it.
Why, I'm sorry to disappoint y'all, but it wasn't me. The guest bathroom, you say? Well, my box is in that bathroom. Anyone could have assaulted the paper and then put some litter down to implicate me.
You lying little...
I stepped forward and put my hand on Walt's chest. I walked him back into the opposite corner of the room. Let me handle this.
But Jill, she's lying through her teeth.
Let me handle this, Walt. You're too emotionally involved. He looked away.
Fine.
I walked back to my seat and flipped to the next piece of evidence. So you claim you're innocent regarding the bathroom? This next one will be a lot harder for you to deny your involvement. Yesterday afternoon, someone stole several bites from a tuna sandwich that was sitting on the coffee table. And there were paw prints found on the glass that led to the sandwich and then back away. You and the owner of said sandwich were the only ones home at the time. Can you explain that? Oh, dear me. That sounds just awful. Now, I do love some tuna, she purred. But I'm afraid that wasn't me either. You know, I've noticed several suspicious characters when I've been resting on the windowsill. Perhaps one of them broke in and ate the sandwich. As for me, I'm sure I was napping. A girl needs her rest if she wants to remain adorable. She rolled onto her back and put her feet into the air while purring louder than ever. Walt exploded forward and slammed his hands down on the table.
I know it was you. Admit it.
Fluffy, terrified out of her mind, fled to the opposite corner of the room, eyes fully dilated. I jumped out of my chair and put myself between them. Walter, that's enough! If you can't control yourself, then you're gonna have to leave this investigation. He turned to me, pleading.
Can't you see it, Jill? She's trying to trick you. It's going to be the pea in the shoes incident all over again. Can't you see that she is lying to you?
Walt, I'm gonna have to ask you to step outside. Clearly, your previous experience with the suspect has clouded your ability to remain objective. Walt hung his head.
It's always the same, Jill. I know she did it. I've got solid evidence. She walks away. Nothing gets done. Nothing changes.
With his eyes starting to water, he left the room. I took a deep breath and then straightened my shirt. I sat back down and with a wave of my arm, invited Fluffy to do the same. She was nonchalant, acting like nothing had happened, like she wasn't just scared out of her mind. Slowly, she started licking her paw and then wiping it across her brow. I'm sorry about that, Miss Watson. Let me assure you, we won't have any more outbursts. It's all right, Jill. Sometimes we all get a little worked up. I understand. But for the love of Pete, please call me Fluffy. Now, Fluffy, you might think you've gotten away with the last 2 charges. Believe me when I say that you're a long way from free and clear. But this final charge is one even you'll have a hard time dancing around. Her eyes grew wide and she tilted her head like she was really listening, interested. This morning, a large pile of vomit was found on the living room carpet. Oh, dear me, how dreadful, she said, raising a paw in front of her mouth. I wasn't finished. The contents were some half-chewed grass, large amounts of semi-digested cat food, and pieces of orange fur. Now I know it was you. I looked her straight in the eyes. Do you have any explanation for this behavior? She looked away for a moment before answering. Yes, Jill, you've caught me. I did it. I won't try to deny it. But I do have a reason for it. I sat back in my chair with an amused look on my face. Let's hear it. Well, Jill, goodness, this is terribly embarrassing. Well, sometimes I like a little nip. I raised an eyebrow. You don't say. She nodded. Yes, it pains me to admit it, but yes. And when I'm on it, well, it's like I'm a different person altogether. I'm wild and frisky, Nothing like my usual reserved, composed self. And I have to admit that it sometimes affects my judgment. And how does this relate to the carpet incident? Well, you see, I got a hold of a rather large amount of nip last night, probably more than was good for me. And I played and I frolicked and I just had a good old time. And I guess all that playing affected my metabolism because I worked up a powerful appetite. So I ate some of my food, and then I ate some more, and then I ate some of my special grass that you bought for me, and then, I hate to admit it, but I ate even more of my food. Then I gave myself a good bath and decided to lie down for a while. Well, I woke up with a terrible pain in my belly. I don't know what the cause could be, but it was bothering me something frightful. I got up and ran for the door so someone could let me out, but I'm afraid that I didn't quite make it. She looked down, not meeting my stare. I sat for a while, thinking, putting the pieces of the puzzle together while she took an interest in grooming. Finally, I knew what I would do. All right, Fluffy, I believe you about the carpet. Oh, thank heaven, I knew you'd understand, Jill. Her southern accent seemed to have gotten even thicker. I wasn't finished. She looked surprised. Here's what else I believe. I believe you were the one who shredded the toilet paper and ate the tuna sandwich. She looked startled, like she might run for the door. But, Jill, I explained myself regarding those two terrible incidents. Yes, and the explanations were pathetic. Just the sort of explanations I'd expect from a nip addict. She gasped. Now, that's not right. Just because I occasionally enjoy a little botanical diversion, well, that doesn't make me an addict. Face it, Fluffy, you're a nip junkie. You can't live without the stuff, can you? And you can't control yourself when you're on it. That couldn't be further from the truth. I am a dignified and classy lady. I can quit whenever I want. Really? I reached into my pocket, brought out a small plastic bag, and threw it on the table between us. Is that fresh from the pet store? The good stuff, I said with a smirk. I waited while she pretended to be uninterested. I didn't have to wait long, as eventually she reached forward and began rubbing her face on the bag. She realized what she was doing and looked up at me, horrified. That proves nothing, she said. Keep telling yourself that, Fluffy. Maybe you'll believe it. Fluffy Watson, I find you guilty on all counts, but you're gonna get help. I know a good 12-step program that's helped other cats conquer their vices. I'm sure it can help you. She rolled over and showed me her belly. I don't need any help. I'm just fine. You're getting off the nip, Fluffy. Let that sink in. No more nip for you. She rolled back onto her feet. You're free to go. I opened the door and she bolted. I was sure she was going to check on some of her stash spots, but Walt and I had already cleaned them out. He was leaning against the wall, coffee mug in his right hand as he waited for me.
How'd it go?
He asked. She'll resist at first, but she'll be better once she's sober.
Listen, I'm sorry about earlier. I should have controlled myself.
I gave him a smile. Don't worry about it. You've never been the calm one. He chuckled and rubbed my arm. Don't go soft on me now, I said.
What's the matter?
He asked. Where's the dog?
I let him out a couple of minutes ago. Why?
It looks like we might have another case, I said as I spied one of my favorite shoes, chewed up and completely covered with slobber. Then my eyes drifted upwards to a crayon drawing on the wall, and I frowned. Or two.
Oh, a chilling tale. Cats who can tell what they'll do next. So unpredictable. Oh, I'm more of a dog person myself. I wish I could interview my dog Jake. Jake, what happened to those handkerchiefs? Now come on, I know you ate them. But what about you? Cats? Dogs? Ferrets? Budgies? All of the above? Let us know in the forums at castofwonders.org/forums. Cast of Wonders is released under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial No Derivatives license. Share it, but do not change it or sell it. Theme is Appeal to Heavens by Alexei Nov from musicalley.com.